One of the most disturbing elements of the Prohibition War is how it's made police the enemy of otherwise law-abiding cannabis consumers. Fortunately, one group of police officers knows the futility of prohibition and reaches out to educate the community and current law enforcement. Today, the Russ Belville Show visits with another speaker from Law Enforcement Against Prohibition with one clear message: cops say legalize drugs.
Welcome back, everyone. 31 after the hour, and joining us by telephone today for Cops Say Legalize Drugs, we've got Leo Laurence, a former deputy sheriff. Welcome, Leo.
Welcome.
Hey,
Good to be on your show.
Thank you for being back here. It's your third time on the show. We appreciate you joining us, and especially during these times, as it seems like you can't turn on the news without hearing about policing in America. And before I got to any questions, I just was wondering what your thoughts might be on the recent stories that we've seen plastered throughout the news headlines.
Well, I think it's really unfortunate that we have a militarization of law enforcement at the local level. It's really not needed, and it's separating the police from the people that they are trying to protect. And local police do not need military-grade weapons to do their job.
Completely agreed. And Mr. Laurence, can you give us an idea of how much the drug war has contributed to militarizing our police forces?
Oh, a major impact. Conservative estimates are that if we legalize and regulate all drugs, that we can boost the U.S. economy by $88 billion with a B dollars. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, even these days, it's still a lot of money, and it's something we know that Law Enforcement Against Prohibition has always promoted, is ending prohibition and replacing it with a realistic system of taxation and regulation. What I'm curious, though, is the cultural aspect of this drug war. A lot of what we're looking at is cries from the African-American community that there's a different system of justice, that police treat them differently. And I'm wondering how much the drug war has contributed to that police culture.
Oh, I in a major way. There have been surveys done, and 3 out of 4 American voters believe that the war on drugs is a total failure. And what's even more interesting is that the National Association of Chiefs of Police, which is a major organization, in their survey they found that 82% of the police chiefs and sheriffs say that the war on drugs has not been successful in reducing drug use. And we believe in LEAP to have what we call legalized regulation. And that's where we decide when, how, where, and why drugs are sold. And the main reason is it significantly reduces crime.
Absolutely. Now, I'm curious, though, with respect to that feeling amongst communities of color that there's a different system of justice, that there's different policing going on.
Oh, there is.
If we were to
there's
legalize,
no question about it.
If we were to legalize as LEAP proposes, do you think that will go a long way toward changing that, or is there just going to be other excuses?
Major, because there are so many people are incarcerated today in local jails and state prisons for minor drug offenses. And in California, sometimes people are picked up and they have one joint on them, and they call that a strike. And then they end up sending them to prison for the rest of their lives on a third strike. And I really believe that if we had legalized regulation, and this would be important especially in minority communities where drug use is unfortunately rather high. That's where we would decide when, where, and how, and why all drugs are sold. And we already know from what they have done in Europe that that will significantly reduce crime. However, the senior law enforcement people, many police chiefs and sheriffs, get a significant amount of their budget for this so-called war on drugs. So they're opposed, many of them are opposed to abolishing the war on drugs.
Exactly. We're speaking with Leo Laurence. He's a former deputy sheriff with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and let's look at it. Let's look at things on the other side of the badge now. In the police culture, oftentimes when we're looking at the citizens, there's especially when we talk about gangs or criminal enterprises, there's the saying "snitches get stitches." This idea that you shouldn't snitch on each other. And the law enforcement, says that's one of the troublesome parts of trying to do policing is that people won't cooperate with the police because of this attitude. And yet when we have these high-profile actions of police against citizens, like the Michael Brown case or Tamir Rice, police are quick to rally and circle the wagons and protect their own rather than, calling out those cops that are making them look bad. How much of the drug war causes that sort of mindset, that thin blue line, that code of silence that exists within police departments?
Yes, and that is one of the problems that we have in combating the militarization of law enforcement. Many law enforcement officers are former military, so they're accustomed to a military culture. But when you're wearing a badge and you're on patrol, you're not in the military. And the people on the street are not the enemy. But there are too many people, too many officers who believe that they are. That, especially minority people. And I have seen it myself where they'll have three or four black people on a corner, and they're not doing anything wrong, but they'll get hassled because, well, they're probably on probation, so let's bust them.
Right.
So it's to change the police culture is going to take a major effort, and I'm delighted to see that the Department of Justice is beginning to look at that. They're studying the police department in Ferguson. They're beginning to look and say, wait a minute, there's something really seriously wrong here. I remember as a kid, we used to think that if you had a question about something, you could always go up and ask an officer. Mm-hmm. Especially minority people don't do that now. And that's really unfortunate. It's difficult to change a culture. And law enforcement culture seriously needs to be changed, especially as it relates to blacks, to Latinos, to Asians. And that's going to take a major effort.
Some experts, some people, including President Obama, are looking at the idea of police body cameras to be worn. Other people talk about increasing the diversity of police departments or requiring officers to live in the cities they police. Are these suggestions you would go along with, and do you have any others that might help to change that culture?
Oh, well, one thing we would need to do is to change our police academies, change how we teach law enforcement officers. And that's going to be tough. Now, body cameras, I think they're a fantastic idea. The rogue officers, the ones who engage in unlawful conduct, aren't going to like them because those cameras are going to catch their rogue conduct. And yes, there is a culture of, well, you never speak ill of another officer. And in some ways, that was good. I remember when I was wearing a badge, I could always expect other officers to watch my back. And when you're out there and you might be facing somebody who's doing some serious stuff and you might get shot at, that's really important. Now, if there's anybody who wants to explore this further, then I can give my phone number and email address so people can contact me directly if you'd like.
Sure, let's do that, Leo.
All right, phone number is area code 619-757-4909. The email address is leopowerhere@msn.com, spelling L-E-O-P as in Paul, O-W-E-R-H-E-R-E @msn.com. And I would encourage your listeners to contact me.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Leo, for giving us that information and for your service, not only as a police officer, but now with Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which I think is one of the most important groups fighting for responsible drug policies in America and now throughout the world. I understand you got some foreign branches as well. Thanks for joining us again, and good luck on all your future endeavors.
And thank you for letting us be on your show. Yes, we've got 100,000 members worldwide in 80 countries.
Well, that's good to hear. And like I say, some of my favorite police officers work for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, and I don't know that I have any favorites that don't. So thank you for being with us.
All right.
All right, folks, stay tuned. When we come back, we are going to have time for a radical rant. We're going to ask, if it's legal now, can we stop treating it like it's evil? You won't believe the restrictions they've got in Washington State if you want to advertise your pot business. The short answer, you pretty much can't. We'll give you the long answer when we come back. But first, the anti-drug PSA of the day features Johnny Depp. Stay tuned.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.